It is generally agreed upon that white is the weakest color in EDH, but I really don't think that's true at all. In this video, I'd like to share with you what I consider to be a very strong mono-white deck. I'm Sven and welcome to my channel, Ceaseless MTG. Today's deck is a mono-white deck and we're playing Mangara the Diplomat as our commander. One of the big reasons why people tend to dislike mono-white in EDH is because it is the color with the weakest card draw and the weakest ramp, and those are two very important things in EDH. While I do agree with that to some extent, I do have a couple points I want to make here. First of all, what white lacks as a color in some areas, it makes up for in others. It probably doesn't have the most potent ramp, but it has some really solid ways of taxing the table, which is another way of balancing mana availability. And it may not have the strongest card draw, but it does have some of the best removal in the format. However, in this particular case, we have some really solid card draw right out of the command zone. EDH is a format that's mostly about advancing your own game plan, so the majority of the time, people are not gonna refrain from casting their second spell just because we get to draw a card. Now, let's move on and actually break down the deck. Palace Jailer and Court of Grace both turn us into the Monarch, which is first and foremost a really good way of potentially drawing a lot of cards, and second of all, it does incentivize people to attack us, which means that if we have Mangara in play, we'll get to draw cards that way as well. Land tax and Endless Horizons fills our hand with lands, meaning we'll get to hit our land drops, while also thinning our deck, especially Endless Horizons, meaning that we'll increase our odds of drawing high impact cards later in the game. And then we have a few more card draw effects that we have to work a little bit for. War Room, Dawn of Hope, Mind's Eye and Endless Atlas all let us draw a few more cards if we're willing to pay some mana. Cartographer's Hawk, Knight of the White Orchid, Verge Rangers and Keeper of the Accord all provide some conditional ramp, and well, it's depending on whether or not an opponent controls more lands than we do. And that is sort of the white signature way of land ramping. And then we do of course have some mana rocks, because we're playing EDH. So we have Soaring, Arcane Signet, Marble Diamond, and Pearl Medallion. And then we have Thought Vessel, Mindstone, and Nyx Lotus. Some of our ramp actually comes from our mana base. We have Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, which is a very well-known commander staple, turns our devotion pips into mana. And we have Ancient Tomb, also a commander staple. Turning your life points into mana is a well-known, pretty broken effect. And then we have some slightly worse, but still okay ramp cards in our mana base. We have Terrain Generator and Myriad Landscape. And then lastly we have Smothering Tithe, which is arguably one of the best ways of ramping in EDH. So since we're playing EDH, we do need to play a little bit of interaction. So we have Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, Generous Gift and Elspeth Conquers Death as our spot removal. We also have some mass removal effects, Dismantling Wave to deal with artifacts and enchantments, Winds of Abandon, which is kind of the white, a little bit worse, Cyclonic Rift, and we have Austere Command, which is a sort of a modal board wipe, and then we have Wrath of Guard, which deals with creatures, Elspeth Sun's Champion deals with big creatures, can also sort of like win the game if it gets to stick to the board. And then Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, to deal with pretty much everything. First up, we have a little Pillow Fort package with 9 lives and Phyrexian Unlife alongside Solemnity. And for those of you not familiar, Solemnity makes it so that 9 lives can't get Incarnation counters and we can't get Infect counters. So any of these two enchantments alongside Solemnity makes it really hard to kill us before these enchantments are dealt with. And then we have a little Gideon package, which is mostly centered around getting an emblem off of Gideon of the Trials. And then we have Gideon Ally of Zendikar and Gideon Champion of Justice, which are mostly there to just have more copies of Gideon Planeswalkers, so that we can get to not die thanks to the emblem. We also do have Gideon Yura, which actually kind of has some sweet synergy with our commander, because he can actually force a player's creatures to attack himself, meaning that we can get to draw cards of our commander. We're also playing a few other various protection effects. We have Teferi's Protection, which is a solid card in Commander, protects your entire board, your everything. And we have Karmic Justice, making opponents think twice about destroying our permanents. Brave the Elements, very cheap and efficient protection from a color. And we have Lightning Greaves, which also is pretty self-explanatory. And Avacyn, Angel of Hope, giving our entire board indestructible. And then we have some white counter magic. We have Mana Tithe and Rebuff the Wicked, and while these cards are obviously not as strong as what you can get out of blue, they do carry a bit more of a surprise with them. And then we have some taxing abilities, which is the one thing that white really excels at. We have Aven Mind Center, which prevents our opponents from searching their libraries, and we have Dranith Magistrate, which prevents our opponents from casting their commanders from their command zone, while also shutting down like some forms of reanimation and playing things from their library and things. Then we have Grand Abolisher, which prevents our opponents from interacting with us during our own turn. And then Thalia Heretic Cathar makes most of our opponent's stuff come into play tapped, which can actually shut down various combos in the format. Linvala, Keeper of Silence, making it so that our opponent's creatures can't activate their abilities. Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, giving the table -2/-2 while buffing our own board. And then Aura of Silence, putting a serious tax on enchantment and artifact spells, while also being a removal piece. And then Alms Collector, shutting down a lot of the best card draw in the format. Okay, so we do also need a plan to actually end the game. So we're playing the 2-card combo of Heliod, Suncrowned, and Walking Ballista. While we're not trying to necessarily do this on turn 3, it is our primary way of ending the game. We do also have some backup plans with some token producers. We have Luminarch Ascension pumping out Angels, and we have Felidar Retreat pumping out Cats, and then we have Field of the Dead pumping out Zombies. Enlightened Tutor and Idyllic Tutor are mostly there to find us either some of our protection or some of our win conditions. And then we have some Planeswalker tutors with Ignite the Beacon, Call the Gatewatch, and Jeru with Eyes Open. Recruiter of the Guard can find various taxing effects if we need them, but most importantly it finds Walking Ballista. Weathered Wayfarer lets us tutor for lands if we meet the condition of controlling fewer lands than our opponents. We already mentioned some of the good targets that we have for this, with Nykthos Shrine to Nyx and Field of the Dead. We can also go grab something like a Hall of Heliod's Generosity or a Emeria the Skyruin. And then we have Thalia's Lancers, which can search for any legendary card in our deck. It can be one of the Gideons if we need a Gideon, it can be Ugin if we need a board wipe, it can be Elish Norn if we need to pump our board to swing for lethal, or it can even be a land, such as Nykthos. Okay, so I did mention a couple of the key lands that we're playing in the deck, but I'm not going to go through every single land that we're playing, because I'd like to keep the video as short as possible. However, I will include a link with the deck list in the description, so you can go check that out if you're interested. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I also hope I managed to change your mind about white as a color in EDH. But if you still think white sucks, it's totally fine. Let me know in the comments down below. And also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video, that is. And I think that's it. Thank you kindly for the view, and until next time.